All right, it's still Friday, May 1st, around 6 o'clock almost. Figured I'd finish this off now before I get too lazy. I got about 20 pages left to read Seeds of Anarchy to finish this story up. I'll talk more at the end about some random stuff that I probably would like to mention about this story. It's a lot different than yesterday. Especially because this one has a large cast of characters. It's kind of hard to keep up with. And it's just going to get more as the story finishes in the last 20 pages. It's kind of a sprint towards the finish line as we get towards the ending here. And maybe Elegant Eccentrics was kind of the opposite. It kind of stayed in the same kind of pacing throughout the whole story. It didn't really go up and down, up and down. But I said in the last post I made on Substack, if you're going to have a film title with the word anarchy in it, you might as well make it chaotic and kind of bipolar like that. I don't know if I've really done that until a director finally, takes over and kind of makes this his or her own vision based on my story. That's how I feel the process would go with a writer like myself. Since I can't direct stuff, it's almost similar to my songwriting, but I have a little bit more confidence in that respect since I've been doing music for 20 years, writing songs and stuff like that. I feel more confident that I can record my own songs and do stuff like that. When it comes to directing stuff, that just sounds way too technical, way too immersive in film and production, because I did take a couple film classes in college, and it is a very technical profession when it comes to film or digital. I'm sure most of films today are made with digital technology and not film, but from time to time you hear people speak about the beauty of film and why they prefer it. Even when it comes to digital, then you have to worry about editing and this and that. It's a crazy experience, I'm sure, that I've never been a part of. So right now, all I can handle is writing the stories and doing stuff like this to get it out, and maybe somebody will connect with it and find a vision that's similar. That's what I'm hopeful for. So where we left off in part 3 was when Ramon's body was being floated down the river on fire as the fisherman on a boat stopped his boat engine and let Ramon float by him, lifting his Budweiser up. This Bud's for you, amigo. Again, a little bit of comic relief. I remember when I wrote this script, that part, I was looking up old Budweiser commercials from the 90s that I remembered as a kid with all the, this Bud's for you, all that corny stuff that's, you want a good laugh, just look up old beer commercials from the 80s and 90s. They get really dramatic, like working class America, drink your beers on the weekend, working class America. Yeah, that's not how it goes, but I'm just making fun of it. Working class America, go home and fuck your wife and drink a Budweiser. It's pretty funny. So that's what I was thinking when I made that scene. This Bud's for you, amigo. All right, now we're getting into the nitty gritty of this story. Really, the main conflict right now, well, right now Bryce has been handled, and the audience would be like, all right, well, at least the punks are safe. They're not going to get killed by the mafia. And the main conflict right now is Lenny being broke. The bank's about to come take his property from him that's been in his family for like 5 generations. Now they're looking for a way to save the farm, and they turn to marijuana. I talked about it in the last one, why I went this direction and some of the hesitation I had because it's kind of cliche to end the story like that. But I think I've made it original enough because of the time period that this takes place in and other stuff. All right, we're going to start part 4 in the biker bar, the same one that the Karma Chameleon montage took place in. It's the daytime. Excuse me. Vivian, Luis, and Lenny sit at a booth as Barb walks over with 2 large, intimidating bikers, Duke and Rivers. She makes quick with the introductions as she slaps each one on the back. Barb, Duke, Rivers. Vivian hands her an envelope and she walks away counting the cash inside. Barb, pleasure doing business. Luis recognizes Duke from the bar fight as they stare each other down, while Lenny hands him a large Ziploc bag of marijuana buds. Lenny, this is complimentary. Give it a taste, sell it all, do whatever you want with it. If you get a good response, Luis, which they will, Lenny, then we can talk details. Duke smells the bag, intrigued, then eyes Lenny curiously. Duke, aren't you a pastor or something? Lenny, kind of branching out into other fields right now. Rivers opens the bag, rolls a quick joint, lights up and inhales, as everyone else sits in tense silence. Rivers, ooh la la, coughs, and passes the joint to Duke. Rivers, what you call this stuff? Vivian and Lenny eye each other, trying to think up something on the spot. Lenny, peace and love. Duke takes a hit. Duke, peace and love. He coughs and smiles wide. Rivers, I think I need some fresh air. Duke, yeah. The 2 men walk outside as Barb walks over to the table. Lenny, what does that mean? Barb, I think it means you have a winner. Moments later, we're outside the biker bar during the day. Duke and Rivers walk down the country road, passionately hugging every tree they come across. Duke to Rivers, you gotta try this one. Rivers joins him as they hug the tree together, laughing like children. Rivers, I can feel its heartbeat. Duke, it's so damn beautiful. Lenny, Luis, Vivian, and Barb watch them from the distance and appreciate the absurdity as the 2 tough as nails bikers lay on the grass and stare towards the clouds, one with nature, one with the universe. Luis, hey, at least they didn't get naked. All right, we're going into the second montage in this movie. I titled it the Marijuana Business Montage. The reason I did it like this was basically what I explained yesterday. During the scene in Elegant Eccentrics, when Kim is winning at every casino game as he wins $500,000. I didn't want to drag that out. I just wanted to make it like a music video. And that's what I like about montages. This one, I would think Bob Marley coming in from the cold fits this kind of feeling. Even though this is a punk type of movie with punk music from the 80s. You know, Bob Marley was punk rock too, man. Any kind of anti-authoritarian Fela Kuti, I just was getting into him lately and reading his story, listening to his podcast about his story, not his podcast, about how the government in Nigeria would raid his home. They killed his mother. They threw people out his windows. I'm laughing because it seems so absurd. But that shit actually happened, like crazy shit, because he wrote music that they didn't like, or because he was promoting a certain lifestyle that the army, the military didn't like. They raided his fucking house with like machine guns and killed people. It was fucking nuts to think about. I was only, what, like 30, 40 years ago? Maybe longer than that. Maybe it was like in the 70s, I think. So 50, 60 years ago. It's not that long ago, man. Fela Kuti was making music until, I think, the 90s, early 90s. So it's weird. So Bob Marley can be considered, because he had the same thing happen to him. I believe the political party wasn't happy with him, so they raided his house, and they might have killed some people. They shot up his house or whatever. So yeah, I think it fits in this montage, and it's about marijuana. The first thing you connect marijuana to as a teenager is reggae music, Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and maybe Cheech and Chong, like I mentioned before. Kids today, I don't know what they think about anything. I don't really have any relationships with younger people to pick their brains like that. So we're going to start this montage in the marijuana field, where Luis, Styx, and Ramona pick through the marijuana plants, while Rufus, Lenny, and Vivian weigh and wrap marijuana buds into 1-pound bundles on a folding table. Now we're going to go to a time cut, the marijuana field at night, as Lucy and Rico smoke a joint together surrounded by marijuana plants. And then they float up towards the stars. So there'll be some CGI effects here to give that floaty type of experience as they just levitate into the sky. Later at night, this is a separate night. Or it could be any night, really, it doesn't matter. Styx backs up the farm truck towards the back of the biker bar, where Duke, Rivers, and some other bikers remove the tarp and unload pounds of peace and love marijuana stacked to the brim inside. This is later that night at the biker bar outside. Styx, Duke and Rivers smoke a joint and do some yoga stretches together under the stars. Now, another day in the marijuana field, Luis, Lenny, Rufus, Lucy, and Rico play wiffle ball amongst the marijuana plants. Lenny hits a long fly ball that Rico dives for and catches, cushioned by the marijuana buds. Now we're at the farmhouse at night, as Vivian lands on Mark's property while playing Monopoly with Lenny and Luke. He holds out his hand, awaiting her payment, as she grabs him and playfully gives him a noogie. Now we're back in the daytime in the country field. Styx and Ramona sit together in the field as he caresses her barely noticeable pregnant belly. Now we're at the farmhouse at night. Lucy, Rico, and Ramona count and pile stacks of money onto the kitchen table, while Luis and Lenny stare towards them in disbelief. Now we're at the marijuana field at night. Rufus and Styx jam together around a campfire with the banjo and acoustic guitar. Now we move to the farmhouse at night inside, where Vivian stares at herself in the mirror and cries tears of joy. Now we're outside that country gas station. Rico drives the farm truck by the Just Say No to Drugs billboard as Lucy, Styx, Ramona, and Rufus fire tomatoes towards it from the back of the truck. The old country attendant steps outside and watches the vandalism as Rico speeds away. He shakes his head in disappointment, then picks his ass, sniffs his fingers, and walks back inside. Now we're at the biker bar at night as Styx and Luis help Duke and Rivers unload the marijuana from the back of the farm truck, while Barb feels Ramona's belly, inadvertently alerting Luis to her pregnancy as he storms off into the night. A little bit later that night, inside the farm truck, Ramona drives the truck as Luis sits next to Sticks, staring him down, while Sticks keeps his gaze focused on the road ahead. Luis extends his hand towards him as Sticks nervously turns, hesitates, then shakes his hand. So if that isn't a clear little scene there, it's just Luis learns that Sticks got Ramona pregnant, and he's pondering what the hell to do with this information, and eventually he kind of makes peace with it and shakes Sticks' hand, kind of saying welcome to the family or whatever. All right, now we're in a country field in the daytime as Lenny, in his pastor attire, raises his arms up joyously as Ramona and Sticks kiss. Mark and Luke lead the newly married couple down a dirt pathway, while Rico, Lucy, Vivian, Louise, Duke, Rivers, Barb, and Rufus cheer and toss marijuana buds towards them. And the last little scene of this montage is at nighttime inside the farmhouse as Rufus tickles Lenny from behind, causing him to lose count of the huge stacks of money on the kitchen table as he tosses some cash into the air. Rufus grabs more of the cash off the table and also tosses it up as Luis, Lucy, Rico, Sticks, Ramon, and Vivian walk in and try to catch the raining money. So maybe that's a cliche type of scene too, but it will look cool at the end of this montage. A bunch of money being tossed into the air, and all these people are out of their mind. They can't believe how much money they're making off of this, and they're just smiling eye to eye as the cash rains down on them. And yeah, I think the Bob Marley song really works there. That was the first one I thought of, I think. Whenever I come up with a montage, I want to think of a couple songs that fit the mood and the atmosphere. And I think the Bob Marley one really just connected with me. All right, now we end the montage and we're still in the farmhouse. So in the same type of environment in the kitchen as Rufus, Luis, and Vivian are counting more piles of cash on the kitchen table. And Lenny is handing Rufus a blueprint of a chapel. Lenny: what you think? Rufus: what is it? Lenny: early design. Plan to have it built after the field is cleared out. Vivian: ooh, looks so professional. Lenny: St. Ramon's. Ramona smiles while picking through some marijuana buds with Rico and Lucy on the counter as Sheriff Thorpe walks in unannounced, carrying a circular saw. Sheriff Thorpe: hey, Len, just wanted to drop off that saw. He walks into the kitchen and sees the marijuana and piles of cash, causing everyone to freeze. Lenny: hey, Sheriff. The sheriff notices Rico, tosses the saw down, takes out his gun, and points it at him. Lenny, Sheriff Thorpe at the same time: just everyone stay cool. Lenny stands up. Lenny: Grady, just take it easy, I can explain. Sheriff Thorpe: are they holding you against your will, forcing you to grow pot? Where's Mark and Luke? Lenny: they're fine, everyone is fine, more than fine. It's not what it looks like. Sheriff Thorpe: it looks like you're playing country bumpkin Pablo Escobar. Sticks walks in, spots the sheriff, and backs away with his hands raised as the sheriff points the gun at him. Sheriff Thorpe: stay back. Lenny: Grady, will you give me a chance to explain? He walks over to Rico, his gun at the ready. Sheriff Thorpe: This one robbed Tommy's liquor store. Put your hands over your head, son. And I never asked twice. Rico puts his hands up. Lucy, you have no proof of any of that. Rico, just keep your mouth shut. Rico lowers his hands. Sheriff Thorpe, just how many Mohawk freaks do you think we get around here? Lenny walks towards the sheriff with his hands up as the sheriff points his gun at him. Sheriff Thorpe, now don't go testing me, Len. I'm a little confused right now, and that is never a good mind frame to be in while holding a gun. Lenny ignores his warning and walks a little closer to him. Lenny, listen, don't cuff the kid. If you're going to bring anyone in, I am the one responsible. This is my show, my operation, my idea. Sheriff Thorpe, is that why you were dancing naked the other night? How the hell did you get mixed up in all of this? Rufus, just everybody calm down, please. Lenny, I had no choice. The bank was going to take the land, the house, everything. Poof, up in smoke. I couldn't let it happen. Sheriff Thorpe, don't make it right. Lenny, yes, sir. You are 100% correct in that assessment, but you have to put yourself in my position. In the eyes of the law, I may be, Sheriff Thorpe, looking at 20 to life. Lenny, running a criminal marijuana enterprise. But I have the money now to save this land for my kids and to help this entire community. He grabs the blueprint of the chapel. Lenny, to help show people the righteous path. The sheriff grabs the blueprint from him and lowers his weapon down. Sheriff Thorpe in a calmer tone. Wow, that's nice, Len, really nice. When did you get this drawn up? Quickly returns to sheriff mode as he raises his gun back towards him. Sheriff Thorpe, none of this will hold up in a court of law. Rufus, fuck the court of law. Who are the victims here exactly? Do you realize this very county used to run rampant with bootleg liquor during Prohibition? Everyone's family has a story like that, including yours. Sheriff Thorpe, law is the law. Stick steps forward with his hands up as the sheriff points his gun towards him. Sticks, sir, with all due respect, you are the law here in this scenario. You are the judge, you are the jury. You can decide whether to ruin this man's life forever, send his kids to foster homes, and demolish generations upon generations of hard work. The sheriff slowly lowers his weapon. Sticks. Or you can decide to keep the American dream alive, keep freedom flourishing, keep hard-working, salt-of-the-earth country folk going strong into the next era of American exceptionalism. Rufus appears impressed at his impassioned speech as he eyes the sheriff. Rufus, the kid speaks the truth, Sheriff. Just try to ignore his fashion sense. Sticks lowers his hands and walks closer to the sheriff. Sticks, I'm not telling you to look the other way. I'm only imploring you to peer directly into this foolish war on drugs and separate the reality from the bullshit. The sheriff holds his gun by his side, thinking about his next move. Lenny, in a calm tone. Grady, would you please just put that gun away? Sheriff Thorpe to Lenny. How much of this shit do you have left to sell exactly? Lenny, we're out after this next run. Honest to God. Whatever is left out there is getting burnt by the end of the week. Rufus, oh, let's not let our high emotional states affect our decision making here. Sheriff Thorpe, no more playing Pablo Escobar. Lenny, no more. Sheriff Thorpe, well, it would be a shame to let all this go to waste. He puts his gun away and talks into his radio. Sheriff Thorpe into his radio. Grace, can you tell Billy and Kenny to stop on by the Wilkes residence when they get off? Female from radio. Everything okay, Sheriff? Sheriff Thorpe. Yes, ma'am. Just want to discuss some things with the boys over here. Female from radio. All right then. You have a good night now. Sheriff Thorpe. Sure will try. You as well. Thanks, son. The sheriff grabs a few stacks of cash from the table. Sheriff Thorpe. Every Escobar needs a corrupt police force. He pockets the cash. Sheriff Thorpe. For Tommy's loss and a new roof for the station. Lenny hands him more stacks of money. Lenny. For Winona's college fund. The two men shake hands on the same wavelength now. All right, so that's the big scene, I guess. Sticks, if you want to look at it like a, you're relitigating the war on drugs. Did it really make a difference in anyone? Did it save lives or did it ruin people's lives? Because it broke up families, put people in jail. I don't know, man, because it's not like it was a good thing to be a drug addict in the 80s. I don't think a lot of crackheads had long life expectancies and other kinds of drugs, not just crack, but when you think of the 80s and the war on drugs, you always think of crack cocaine before anything else. Because I don't think crack even exists anymore, not that I would know. But when you think of the 80s and you think of the war on drugs, at least for me, the first thing I think of is cocaine and crack, whether it's the Colombian, as that's what it seemed like by watching shows like Narcos and that Johnny Depp movie Blow, which was based on a true story. What's his name? George Young, maybe? I forget. He was the American pilot that brought more cocaine into the country than anybody. And then there's stories. I watched a show on FX called Snowfall about how the CIA were selling crack. They were making money off cocaine and crack so they could give weapons and money to the people fighting in Nicaragua. I believe that's what it was. Don't hold me to that. But there was a lot of fucked up shit going on. That's what I'm saying. It's not as simple as drugs are bad. There's a lot of fucking crazy shit when it comes to the drug business that I don't understand. I don't really want to understand it because I don't do any drugs. But yeah, people make it out to be such a simple thing when they teach it to whoever. But it is what it is. You're allowed to believe what you want to believe. But when you start putting people in jail because of your beliefs and somebody else will say, well, you should go to jail because you drink wine. That's bad. Well, you do crack. You're going to jail for crack. Oh, you drink caffeine. Caffeine's a drug. You're going to jail for caffeine. It just, I know I'm not really doing the most logical explanation for this, but when the government starts playing mommy and daddy like that, and whether it's alcohol or marijuana or whatever the fuck else, it becomes a problem from the federal level specifically. So Styx is kind of on that edge of, you're the law, you're the judge, you're the jury. Don't pay attention to the bullshit. Just, be guided by your own common sense and your own, whatever you want to call it, street smarts. Whatever, man. It's that scene was kind of serious, and every time I read it, it is like an indictment of the entire war on drugs. That even though Lenny is going to get saved, he's able to save his family. He's not going to go to jail for selling pot. How about all the other countless people that went to jail for pot and stupid shit like that, victimless crimes. It's a big deal because a lot of families got fucked up like that. There's studies about that. I don't know any of this stuff. I just parrot what I hear, but it makes sense. It does make sense. So that's basically what that little scene is supposed to represent. Almost like it's two sides of the argument, and then eventually, like anything else, money wins out. Because really, Colorado was the experiment. Colorado was the first state, I believe, to do the marijuana experiment, legalize it recreationally. Once the state finds out they can make all this tax revenue, then it becomes, all right, I guess it is a medicine. Why we put people in jail for this again? Oh yeah, it was just racist bullshit. So yeah, once the people can find out the money involved with drugs, just like alcohol, just like cigarettes, why do you think these people in those industries have lobbyists? Because those are powerful, powerful industries. Well, you could put firearms in there too, yeah. But, guns can be a drug too. Some people are addicted to guns. But as a physical type of narcotic, yeah. Why do you think the alcohol industry and the cigarette lobby, that they're so powerful? Because they're making more money than they can even ever dream of, because people get addicted to this shit. And yeah, I've been there with cigarettes at least. I was addicted to cigarettes for a while. So yeah, drugs are a personal issue, I guess. I'm not promoting it, but I'm not demonizing it either. I would never judge anyone because they smoke weed. I would never judge anyone for drinking alcohol. Even if I don't do it, I'm not judging other people because I've been there and there's nothing wrong with it if you can handle it. Just like gambling, in essence, there's really nothing wrong with it. It's maybe not the wisest thing to do with your money, like drugs too, but people are going to do what they want to do. The question is, how much freedom are you going to give people? And that's always going to be back and forth, back and forth. So that's what this scene between Sheriff Thorpe and Styx going back and forth a little, they're kind of relitigating the war on drugs, the philosophy of it. And yeah, it's a different reality because this is the Bible Belt. Lenny's a respected pastor. He's a white guy. He's growing pot. If this happened in the inner city, some poor people, they would be put in jail automatically, no questions asked. So it's kind of showing that as well. There's so much hypocrisy when it comes to the government bureaucracy trying to do stuff like that. All right, continuing. I'm on page 93. All right, it's later that same night inside the farmhouse as smoke fills the kitchen and country music blares from the radio as Kenny, in his 50s in his police uniform, deals a hand of Texas Hold'em to the sheriff, Lenny, Vivian, Rico, and Luis. I always seem to have poker in my scripts. I've just noticed that. Billy, in his 40s, smokes a joint against the counter with his police shirt tied around his head, while Lucy, Rufus, Ramona, and Styx drink shots next to him. Billy. Followed the dead around in 77. Took half a year off and just cleared my head out entirely. Police work's a stressful job. Passes the joint to Kenny, who inhales. Kenny. Don't listen to him. He hasn't had to cuff anyone since he started working. Billy. Beauty of life in a small town. Kenny passes the joint to the sheriff, who takes a big hit. Sheriff Thorpe. Almost sounds like we should just get rid of your lazy ass. The room erupts in laughter, while Billy touches Rico's mohawk. Billy. Man, how the hell do you keep that damn thing up like that? Rico. It's really quite scientific. Alright, that's a hard cut now to the marijuana field at the same time at night. as Lenny and Vivian lay under the stars as he massages her neck. Lenny, you know I'm going to ask you to marry me at some point, right? Vivian, is that so? Lenny, would you want to? Vivian, you know my past. Lenny, forget the past. I would not have saved this place without you. Vivian, I don't know how to feel. Lenny, nobody really does. She sits up and gazes towards the starry sky. Vivian, all I've known my entire life is killing. It's the only job I've ever had. Just shooting holes in flesh. Maybe some of the people I killed had it coming, but at some point I didn't care enough to ask questions anymore. Killing became more of a routine chore. Something to pass the time. Stares Lenny in the eyes. Vivian, how could you possibly want that mess in your children's lives? Lenny, you don't have to be that person anymore. Have to live in the here and now. Vivian, not everyone deserves a happy ending. Lenny, we can write our own. It's a little bit of a sappy scene that I don't really write too often, but I think it's an interesting relationship between a southern pastor who's a widow, he lost his wife, and a mafia assassin who's kind of done with that lifestyle. She doesn't know how to change at this point because she's killed so many people. So it's kind of an interesting, you can make a whole movie based on that relationship, really, if I took the time to write that. And a mafia assassin who wants to retire and wants to get the thrill of killing out of their DNA. It's kind of an interesting look. Almost like the Analyze That movie, but that was more comedic when De Niro kept going to his shrink because he was having nervous breakdowns. You could look at Tony Soprano's, it's the same thing. You become such a monster, but you try to keep your family life up as well. But yeah, Tony Soprano was a fucking psychopath, but he played the role so well that you almost connected to the guy and you felt bad for him. That was the real beauty of The Sopranos was, yeah, the dude was a psychopath. He murdered people, cheated people, killed people like willy-nilly, ordered people to die. But also, he's like a cool guy. Like you would want to hang out with Tony Soprano. He's like a cool dude. Eating his fucking gabagool. But yeah, that's what makes the anti-hero interesting. Walter White, Tony Soprano. I could go on and on. Bill the Butcher and Gangs of New York. People like that are just psychopaths, sociopaths, but they're just so relatable because they're free. Like they're so free in the moment. It's weird when you have a character like that. All right. Now we're moving on to later on that night. We're in a country field where Rufus picks up his banjo and is strumming the banjo, and Sticks, Lucy, and Rico are drinking around the fire. Rufus. Harrison would probably be my personal fave, but Lennon had a lot of great solo stuff too. Mind Games, Plastic Ono. Lucy grabs the acoustic guitar and plays a part from John Lennon's Out the Blue. Lucy, singing, like a UFO you came to me and blew away life's misery. Out the blue, life's energy, out the blue you came to me. Sticks, look who's the hippie now. She hurls a beer at him, hitting him hard in the gut. Sticks, gasping for air. Maybe not full hippie just yet. Lucy, guess the country air's filling me up with some of that peace and love, man. She mockingly throws up 2 peace signs as Lenny and Vivian walk over and sit by the fire. Sticks. Different kind of bubble down here, but not as claustrophobic. Sticks grabs the acoustic from Lucy and finger picks Wildwood Flower by the Carter family as Ramona and Luis walk over and sit around the fire. Lenny to Sticks. You know, we clean you up a little. You might even pass for a country-bred gentleman someday. Lucy. Nah, he'll always be a skinny city punk. Ramona holds out her pregnant belly. Ramona. One half Mexican, one half punk. Luis. I'm gonna spoil the hell out of whatever that little freak looks like. Lucy. One big happy fucking family. Lenny places more wood in the fire as Luis grabs the acoustic from Sticks and lightly finger picks. Lenny. My grandfather told me a story once about his father. He was a pastor too. The one who built the chapel that would later get washed away in that flood. Real strict, quiet man. Always avoided confrontation. Never even took one sip of whiskey his entire life. One day, 3 convicts came onto the homestead, having just escaped their work regiment. They raided the house, took food, weapons, whatever they wanted. Killed his younger brother, who tried to stop them. One of them tried to have his way with his daughter, groped her, started walking upstairs with her over his shoulder as she screamed out, arms flailing in desperation and fear. My great-grandfather charged the man who was twice his size and a career violent criminal, grabbed him by the neck and choked him until he collapsed dead. Other 2 men charged, but he somehow fought them both off as they gave up rather quickly. Must have thought he was a man possessed or something. As they charged away from the homestead, a bolt of lightning struck the chain that held them at the wrist, killing both men instantly. Now, I don't know if you want to call that divine justice or coincidence, or just natural chaos of the greater human experience, but I like to think it was God's way of showing my ancestors that he was still paying some attention. He gazes up towards the stars. Yeah. I wrote this kind of a mini monologue because I'm a huge fan of Jaws, Spielberg Jaws, where the famous scene in the boat where he gives that speech about when he was in the army during World War II in the Pacific and all his men, whatever, their fucking ship was bombed or whatever it was, and they were stuck in the ocean, and all these men in the ocean, you know the story. I think it's based on truth, and all these men were just in the ocean with just teams of sharks, and every couple minutes a shark would come and just fucking rip one of them to shreds. And yeah, watching that as a kid, that just freaks you the fuck out, man. Jaws is a horror movie by far. Like, that's one of the craziest scenes in a movie. So I wanted to write something like that. Do I love this little monologue? I'm not trying to compare it to the magnitude of the Jaws one, because that's like the best ever. This was just my attempt to add something like that. And it has that spiritual type of message of why Lenny probably continued to be a pastor because his great-grandfather was a pastor, probably his father too, or his grandfather. He's just the next chain in the link of this spiritual connection. You could go back to that type of genetic code. What is genetic code? Or are all these just made up terms because spirituality has been covered up? Like that famous line that the best trick the devil ever played was convincing the world that he doesn't exist. That's a great line from another great movie, The Usual Suspects. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he doesn't exist. Like, that can mean so many things. I really like that line. So, the reason I wrote this monologue, I wanted to give Lenny's character a chance to, I don't know, just explain spirituality from his side of the fence. We had a little bit from Ramon in that shamanic type of tradition. Lenny's coming more from the Christian Western religion thing, which is based on paganism. Every religion is based on that original pagan tradition. Well, I'm not a professional. I don't want to say every religion, but you can trace things back to a lot of those traditions. I'll say it like that at least. I'm not afraid to talk about religion or politics. I don't care, man. I look at it like this. Nobody gives you the information to make informed decisions, whether it's on the news or out of a politician's mouth or in a church service. Nobody's really giving you the transparency that you need to make informed decisions about existence. So I don't care about saying something stupid from a religious angle or foreign relations or whatever the fuck. I'm going to speak freely. Whether I sound like an idiot or not, I don't give a shit. I'm not afraid of coming across like that because I am an idiot in a lot of ways, so that's cool. I don't give a shit. It's not something I would lose sleep over. Really, I don't give a fuck at all. But the reason I wanted specifically Lenny to have a long dialogue like that, explaining the heritage of his grandfather and this crazy story. Does God intervene through people like that? You hear those stories, at least. I remember as a kid, I was into the X-Files and unsolved mysteries and weird shit like that. That probably developed my later addiction to conspiracy theories. The X-Files was like the gateway drug, because I love that show, man. The X-Files and unsolved mysteries, those just freaked me the fuck out. In a good way, like I love it. I still would watch it today. That's probably a show I need to revisit because that blew my mind as a kid. The X-Files especially. And where was I going with that? I don't remember now. But yeah, there was probably unsolved mysteries. They were talking about this woman and I don't know, something happened and her kid got stuck under a car. And this woman, who was like a petite woman, was able to lift the car up and grab her kid from underneath the car. Like, you hear stories like that, you don't know whether to believe it or not. Is there a divine intervention type of thing? But then, why does God intervene there and not in other places? Why didn't he intervene during, like, the Holocaust? Or intervene during, I don't know, the Cathar massacre back thousands of years ago? That's the famous quote, actually, that kill them all and let God sort them out. Like, I think Metallica or somebody used that line. I forget where it comes from, but it is a very heavy metal line. Kill them all and let God sort them out. I don't know. It was some kind of crusading army. One of the people in charge had that quote during the Cathar massacre. So it's weird. I wanted to speak a little bit about this because some people might think it's out of place. I remember being in the theater watching Tom Hanks in Castaway, and I like that movie. It's a little bit too long, but it's a good movie. Castaway. Towards the end, he gives like that Oscar-worthy monologue about his life and his love and all that shit. So I don't want to be cliche with this, but it is being kind of cliche as well. But it's really not that long. I feel like the actor, maybe 40 seconds, a minute, would be able to speak this monologue in an emotionally impactful way. So I would, if I was in a writer's room and people were like, you got to take that out, it doesn't fit, I would fight pretty hard to keep this in because I think it does fit the spiritual theme of everything. All right, I guess I'm doing the commentary as I'm going in this last part here, which is good, so I don't forget what I want to talk about. So I guess it's better to do it like this. So before I went on this little rant, we ended with Lenny giving that monologue about his great-grandfather killing those people, and then he gazes towards the starry sky. Now you cut to Sonny in his bedroom in New York, sleeping on his ornate bed, next to his wife. He fidgets around and then he wakes suddenly, like he just had some kind of realization in his dream. Sonny, quietly to himself, that conniving witch. Now we are moving ahead a couple of weeks from that moment. We are inside the biker bar at night as Rico plays DJ, spinning records from a small stage where modest wedding decorations adorn the walls, while Duke picks Lenny up and spins him around playfully past other guests on the dance floor, spilling beer all over his tuxedo. Duke, do you know how much money this motherfucker made me this year? He spanks his ass. Lenny, I love you too, Duke. Vivian, dressed in a modest white wedding dress, smokes a cigarette at the bar as Styx stands next to her, picking his teeth with a toothpick. Vivian, got some names picked out yet? Styx, if it's a boy, we both are leaning towards Ramon. I put my foot down with girls' names, though. Either Vivian or Gertrude, after my grandmother. So I think we are probably going with Vivian. Vivian. I never really liked my own name. Ramona walks over, her pregnant belly showing fully now. Ramona. I don't want to be here when everyone hits that one too many mark. Kisses Styx. Ramona. Don't get too drunk, please. Hugs Vivian and walks towards the exit, where Luis holds the door for her and leads her out, while Vivian puts out her cigarette in an ashtray. Vivian. Why would you want to ruin that baby with a name like Vivian? Styx. You could have been my angel of death. Vivian. Should have been. Styx. But you spared me. Vivian. You're the one anomaly. Only job I never finished. Styx. Don't finish me off tonight. I need a long, drunken night of debauchery. Rico tests out his drum kit on the stage while Lucy plugs in a bass guitar and walks up to the mic. Lucy. Styx, let's go. Styx runs to the stage and plugs in an electric guitar, then walks to the mic. Styx. Can the bride and groom please report to the dance floor? Vivian and Lenny meet in the middle of the dance floor, kiss and slow dance, as the punks play a lightning-quick punk version of Lady in Red by Chris de Burgh. Now we go to early morning dawn inside the biker bar. Lucy and Rico have the entire dance floor to themselves now as they slow dance to a Motown song. Styx passes out against a booth where Duke arm wrestles Rivers and wins. As they then finish their drinks and stumble towards Barb, who cleans off the bar. Duke, another round. Barb, hell no, I need sleep. Go the fuck home before you lose the few remaining brain cells you have left. Duke reaches over the bar, grabs a whiskey bottle, and walks away with Rivers. Duke, night, Barb. They walk away towards the exit as Lenny and Vivian approach the bar, and Barb grabs her shotgun. Barb, Didn't have to pull this out once tonight. Vivian grabs her pistol, concealed under her dress, and places it on the bar. Vivian, me neither. Barb, good omen for a freshly minted marriage. She pours out 3 shots. Barb, one last round. The 3 lift up their shot glasses together. Lenny, to new beginnings, even for old spares like us. They cheers. All right, we're coming to the close now. Coming into for landing. We're outside the biker bar. Moments later, dawn, as Lenny and Vivian walk out, carrying sticks on their shoulders as he's too drunk to walk on his own. Vivian, future father of the year. Sonny waits for them in the parking lot, right out in the open, alongside Ralph, Dom, and Bryce, who's sporting 2 fresh black eyes. Sonny, what disrespect, Viv. No wedding invite? She instantly submits as they pull out their weapons. Vivian, just me, Sonny. Everyone else is innocent. Sonny, just you? Don't you ever bark orders towards me. He walks closer and shoots her in the leg. Sonny, since when do you care about guilt or innocence? He grabs Sticks by the neck. Sonny, I finally meet the man who killed Frankie. You did me a favor, kid. He punches him hard in his gut, then slams his face down onto his knee, splitting his forehead open as Lenny attempts a bluff. Lenny, that bar is full of bikers, so I would rethink your next move. Sonny, bikers? Really? Bikers? Ooh. He grabs Lenny by the chin. Sonny, to Vivian, this is the reason you stayed here? Casually shoots Vivian in the other leg, causing blood to spread all over her wedding dress. Vivian, he has kids, Sonny. Sonny, you think I'm not big of a monster? He pistol whips Lenny, knocking him down onto the pavement, just as a massive thunderstorm forms, sending down heavy rain. Sonny, God damn it. He presses his pistol to Vivian's forehead as massive bolts of lightning flash, followed by massive explosions of thunder. Sonny, over the thunder. You and I are a dying breed, Vivian. What was any of it for, Sonny? Sonny, kind of late to have that deep existential discussion, don't you think? Lenny wakes up dazed and stares above as a huge bolt of lightning shoots down right through Sonny's skull, frying his insides like he was a petrified victim of Pompeii. Ralph, Sonny! Ralph runs towards him through the blinding rain as Vivian grabs Sonny's gun and shoots him right between the eyes. Lenny tries to help her up, but she cannot stand, while Dom and Bryce take cover behind their car and fire their weapons towards them, striking Lenny in the arm. Vivian, just run, Lenny. She fires towards their vehicle to give him some cover, but he stays by her side, while Bryce crawls towards her, fires, and hits her directly in the heart, her wedding dress now completely covered in red. With only a few breaths left, she maneuvers her body and fires a precision-perfect headshot as Bryce collapses dead onto the rain-soaked pavement. She drops the gun and takes her last breath in Lenny's arms. Dom walks towards Sticks, gun in hand, then collapses forward, an axe to the back from Rico, who stands behind him, panting heavily. Lucy walks outside, shocked by the carnage, as the 3 punks hug together. We now drift high above as the thunderstorm suddenly subsides and early morning sunshine illuminates the bloody scene. And that's the end. I will mention the ending song is Wire, the band Wire, the song Mercy. And yeah, check that song out. Maybe I'll share it on the post because it kind of really represents another, just like Ace of Spades was connected to Kim's character in Elegant Eccentrics. Wire, Mercy, the song Mercy by Wire, it really connected to some of the themes as I wrote the ending to this. Yeah, it's a dark, violent ending. I did mention it gets kind of Tarantino at the end because it's a bloody ending. A lot of people die. Sonny dies. Vivian dies. Her dream of living a normal life just doesn't exist after she spent 50 years killing people. Same with Sonny, same with other people. It's things you can't control. Like, it goes back to the whole spiritual concept of reincarnation and how people live by that as a moral code. It's the same as heaven and hell. You tell people whether if they don't act a certain way, they're going to burn in hell, or you have a different philosophy and you tell people about reincarnation. If you don't live a good life, you're going to come back as worm shit or whatever the fuck. If you live a good life, then you can be rich and famous. It's almost like a bribery. Reincarnation as a motivator, it's almost bribing people. Like, oh, you want to do bad things and whatever and move up the social ladder in your life right now? Well, if you do that, you're going to come back as a fucking rat or whatever, some kind of insect. But if you obey us and follow the law, then you'll go to heaven or you'll come back as someone in a higher status. It's a good way to control people. I'm being cynical about this, of course, because it is a beautiful way to think about it, that you never really die. Your body will die, but whatever your soul is, if you believe in that type of thing, will just go on and live in some other vessel. If you want to think of it like that, it's kind of interesting. Your bodies are really a prison because whatever consciousness is, whatever your soul is, whatever that part of you that isn't a physical entity, whether you want to call it demigod or other people believe there's angelic DNA mixed with human beings, and the Book of Enoch kind of went into that. How, I don't want to get into all the crazy, not that it's crazy, but it's not like something I really believe in. Or ancient alien stuff, Scientology. There's so many other ways to talk about an issue like that. What happens when you die? Is it just darkness, or does your consciousness continue in a different realization of a chemical reaction? Right now, whatever we are, your essence is trapped in your body. And until you die, you don't really know what the essence of existence really is. You can believe in anything from a moral perspective. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with reincarnation or heaven and hell, teaching people those types of things. The problem is, people always say, leave the judgment to God, but nobody lives by that. In my experience, even the more religious people are, the more judgmental they are, because they expect everyone to live by this code. And if they don't, their life on earth is almost like a version of hell. That's kind of what it morphs into with a lot of the Abrahamic religions. I don't know about how Jewish people do it. I don't know how Muslim people do it. I can just base it on growing up Catholic in Catholic school and stuff like that. And I think it was, way worse back in the day. I don't think there's going to be an inquisition and shit like that. I've kind of mentioned that before, that every religion has to evolve or it's going to lose membership. But it's, as a moral code, it's really not that bad. But teaching a 5-year-old child about hell and the devil and burning for your sins, that's a form of child abuse, I think. I've always kind of thought that. I don't think I could, if I ever had kids, I'll paint it in that depiction. If I did ever have kids, which I probably won't, I don't think I could promote that image of an afterlife. Like, oh, you better wise up, little whatever your name is, or you're gonna burn in hell. And to teach that to children, I don't think that's a wise way to do things. But who am I? I'm just a person with an opinion, blah, blah, blah. Reincarnation, I don't really understand it. Basically, what if you have good karma and you do good things and you live a good life, then you could be reincarnated, live again in a more stately fashion in terms of possessions or money. I don't really know how it works. I could come back as Mila Kunis or a beautiful woman like that, or I'll come back as George Clooney and be famous and rich and own villas in Italy and do whatever the fuck I want because I'm fucking George Clooney and nobody can tell me what the fuck to do. So yeah, I guess that's a good way to look at it. Like, reincarnation, like, I don't think it's really taught like that. I'm just kind of poking fun in my own way. But as a way to motivate a large group of people, how do you motivate people to live a good life and to follow whatever laws you want to attach to that? A lot of it is done through fear-mongering and stuff like that. If you're not with us, you're against us. And making things, this is good, this is bad. There's no gray area. You're either on this side or you're on that side. There's no middle. I don't know why I'm doing a southern accent. I was thinking of George Bush during the Iraq War when he's like, you're either with us or against us. But that's been the rallying cry when it comes to foreign conflicts or civil war. That's always what it's like. This is the good side, this is the bad side. There's no space in between. A lot of those types of narratives are painted in a way like that. So you could look at this own story. Was Vivian bad? Was she good? I would argue that no, she wasn't bad or good. She's just a person who makes decisions. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. It doesn't make her a bad person per se. It doesn't make her a good person. Each decision she makes in life will either lead her down a bad path or a good path. But it's hard to really say. You could say I'm crazy and be like, what are you talking about? She was an assassin. She killed people. Other people will argue, well, she probably killed other bad people. She was thinning the herd of bad people. So she was good. It was just collateral damage, right? Aren't we taught that? Living in a militaristic type of country, aren't we taught that? Oh, it's just collateral damage. Their lives aren't worthy as much as ours are. That's how things are presented in front of our faces in not a very subtle way when you use language like that. Oh, it was just collateral damage. That's just how war is. Or whatever you want to say. Like, and that sinks into your humanity or your inhumanity, where it just becomes a regular part of the political cycle or the religious cycle. You're either on this team or that team. And that's a part of this story, I think, is a part of that. Because if you really look at the core of what makes someone a person is based on that. Are you going to be the person who just accepts it, or are you going to be like, nah, this is bullshit? Are you going to be the person that just accepts things because somebody tells you? Or are you going to think critically about things? you could go back to Thomas Paine and the founding fathers. Even though they had slavery, they were questioning things. Why are we being taxed when we don't have representation? Why are these people controlling our lives from across the fucking ocean when they have no right to, and they don't even know what it's like to live in America? Why is back when we were colonies back then? And you could say the same thing about anything. Everyone can point to a similar macro thing or micro thing, whether it's internally or externally. So that is the essence, I think, of this story, and maybe to a more complicated degree. I'm not trying to solve or explain the human condition because I don't know shit. But it's really, that's the basis of it. Do you just accept things because you're told to, because you're just told that's the way things are, or do you question things? Doesn't mean it has to be violent or always turn into a revolutionary type of thing. But are you the person that just accepts things because it's easier to live in ignorance? Or do you question things and wonder, why the fuck is this happening? Why aren't we given all the information? And yeah, that makes your life more complicated, definitely. Living in ignorance, like in the Matrix, is way easier, which I always talk about that because it's a good example of it. Where would you rather be blindfolded your entire life and just drift along pretending everything's normal? You're living in the Matrix and you just accept it when you're shown how fucked up and how unnatural things are, but you just accept it anyway because it's comfortable and whatever? Or do you agree to get your plug completely pulled and you live in the misery, almost like the Buddhist concept that life is pain, life is suffering, just accept it and your life will get easier at that point? Because that's kind of what the Matrix represented to me. I know there's a lot of aspects of Judaism and Christianity. Neo in the Matrix is a Christ figure. He's dying for the sins of our computer programmers. He is a Jesus figure, but I wrote a paper in college about how the Matrix was like more based on Buddhism, because it's like your reality is peeled away layer by layer until you're left with the simplest taste of what it means to be a human being. It's not about your possessions or your fucking bank account. It's not about your career or your political party or your sexuality or your race or your ethnic tribe or your nationality or what tribe you're at war with and all that shit. All that shit doesn't matter. When you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be thinking about that shit. You're going to be thinking about it now because you're worried about your social standing. And granted, that's fair. Everyone kind of has to concern themselves. It's a survival aspect. It's a response that everyone kind of has to go through. But when you really boil everything down, like the Matrix, I wrote that paper in college about how Buddhism was really the main philosophy I got after watching the Matrix. That type of everything that you see or what people want you to see is a facade, the man behind the curtain. People think they're powerful, but there really is no order, in certain aspects of life. We try to order the chaos the best we can, individually or as a town or as a school or as a business. You try to organize the chaos the best you can, but a lot of things are out of your hands. Just like the ending of this movie, like, I don't think I could have ended this any other way. Vivian was a violent murderer. She was an assassin. She killed people her entire life, whether they were good people or bad people. In my opinion, she didn't have a happy ending. She kind of foretold that when she said, I've done a lot of fucked up things in my life, some people don't deserve a happy ending. And Sonny, the same thing. He's probably been involved in all kinds of criminal shit, killing people, stealing from people. And I didn't really see any other way to end this story. If I would have ended this story without this last gun battle, you just have the wedding and it ends with Lenny taking the shot with Barb and Vivian, and they say, "To new beginnings, even for old spares like us." And they take the shot, and then the movie just ends. I'd be like, that is so unrealistic. It doesn't make any sense from any point of view. So I'm happy with how the ending turned out. I feel like I had to put some kind of closure to it. And you could say, well, I think that would be one of the coolest deaths in cinema history, when a bolt of lightning goes through Sonny's skull and just fries him, and his body just turns black like he's charred barbecue. I think that's pretty cool. And yeah, it's Ramon. Ramon is like watching over them, and he's almost controlling the weather at that point, trying to save what he can. And it's another one of those things that Lenny told that story about his great grandfather. He killed the one guy, and then the two other convicts tried to escape. And as they were escaping, a bolt of lightning fried them both through the chains. It's the same thing. Is there a divine intervention going on? But then, who's to say what divine intervention really is? How do you know that God is really looking out for you? Or is it just a part of some other lesson he's trying to show the rest of the world? Because people pray to God like as an individual for individual pursuits and for individual peace of mind. How many people really pray for the general well-being of humanity, or of all races, all religions, regardless of what God you call God or whatever? It becomes too tribal, I think. It becomes naturally just the way human beings interact. It becomes too tribal, where my God is better than your God and all that stuff. That's kind of where I was going with this. Even though it's a very surreal ending, there's a lot of moments throughout this movie that are surreal. And it just ends on that note. That just by happenstance, there happens to be a thunderstorm, and then a bolt of lightning strikes this guy through the skull. And that's the end. I just think it's a fitting closure to all of these storylines. And I'm open to other people criticizing this, and I think other people have said the tone of this movie was very lighthearted and comedic, and then you have this really violent outburst at the end, but there was violence throughout this whole thing. You had Vivian shooting those two guys in the dick. You had other moments. You had a murder in the beginning, even though it was an accident. You had moments of death and morbidity and violence throughout the entire movie. So I think it does fit. And I don't think you could really end this movie on a different note. Maybe I was also inspired by that scene in Kill Bill, or the second one, whatever it was, when they have the wedding and Uma Thurman, I think it's in black and white, but her dress becomes like all covered in blood. I always thought that was pretty cool. So I had the punk band, they would cover Lady in Red, so it's kind of foreshadowing that part of it. And yeah, I tried to make it symbolic throughout the story. I did the best I could without making it too obvious, you know. Because it's one of those things you could rewatch, and you're like, oh, they're playing a song called Lady in Red, and then two scenes later, Vivian's in a white white wedding dress covered in blood. So there's a lot of weird coincidences that I tried to put throughout this story. But yeah, is it a morality tale? Is it like a Coen Brothers movie? Because the Coen Brothers do that, I think, better than anyone. The Coen Brothers, I don't know if they're from the Jewish tradition, I don't know. But I feel like a lot of their movies portray that um, moral code or some kind of ethical type of, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like that Barton Fink at the end with John Goodman. He's like the devil yelling at John Turturro. There's some crazy shit like that as the place is on fire. That's an underrated one. What is that? Barton Fink. Yeah, that's a fucked up movie, man. But yeah, I feel like the Coen brothers, even with the Fargo series, which I don't know if they write all those episodes, but they're so well done. I haven't talked about the Coen brothers too much, but yeah, they're right up there for me with, the Tarantinos of the world. I feel like every Coen brothers movie I watch, I have to go back and look at it later. Like the one with Billy Bob Thornton where he's the barber. I forget what it's called. And it's a lot about that existential stuff that I won't understand it. For example, that movie, whatever it was called, I gotta look it up now. Billy Bob Thornton, actually James Gandolfini's in it too. For a little bit of it. Billy Bob Thornton, I can't think of it. Scarlett Johansson's in it too. She plays the piano. And yeah, I can't think what it's called. The Man Who Wasn't There. Yeah, it's a fucked up movie. But I enjoyed it. 2001, The Man Who Wasn't There. Coen Brothers neo-noir film starring Billy Bob Thornton as a disaffected barber in 1949 California. And yeah, I only watched it once a long time ago, but it definitely stayed in my subconscious. But why am I bringing that up? Because I would watch that movie and not understand some of the other concepts in it. Yeah, Adrian Monk's in it. I know that's not his real name. What's his real name? I know. He's one of my favorite actors. I should know his name. What's his real name, though? Tony Shalhoub, yeah. Yeah, he's in that. He plays a lawyer, maybe. And after I watch that movie, I have to go on YouTube and look up what was the real symbolic meaning of the Coen brothers, The Man Who Wasn't There. And then I would watch more intelligent people speak of all these themes and motifs that went way over my head. And then I could rewatch it and be like, oh, now I understand. But yeah, weird shit like that. The Coen brothers especially, they really there's so many levels to their movies in the dialogue, in the acting, in the way they frame each picture, whatever they do. And yeah, there was a moment when I was trying to watch every one of their movies. I don't think I did. There's probably some that I did not get through. But let me finish now. Well, Raising Arizona. Yeah, that's up there for me. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. I've seen The Hudsucker Proxy. Is that what it's called? Yeah, that was pretty good. Raising Arizona, definitely. That's like on my top 10 movies of all time. I love that movie. Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? Hail Caesar, I think I tried to watch it, but I didn't get through the whole thing. And maybe there's some other ones I didn't get through yet. Yeah, I've never seen the early one, Blood Simple or Miller's Crossing, I never saw. More of their newer ones. A Serious Man, that was pretty good. Inside Llewyn Davis, yeah, that was good. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, amazing, I love that. No Country for Old Men, Burn After Reading. I vaguely remember that. Well, of course, Fargo, Big Lebowski. Like, it's pretty crazy. If I list my top 10 movies of all time, Raising Arizona's on it. I love that movie for some reason. It just connected with me. The soundtrack and the performances, it's so good. Raising Arizona would be in my top 10 movies of all time. Fargo would probably be in my top 10 movies. And Big Lebowski. Like, I might have three Coen Brothers movies, and No Country for Old Men might actually be their best movie. So it gets really weird. I like The Ballad of Buster Scruggs more than even like Inside Llewyn Davis. I thought The Ballad of Buster Scruggs was just absolutely genius, man. The one with Tom Waits when he's digging for gold by himself, and then he finds a big rock of gold, and then some bandito shoots him in the back and steals it, but he ends up surviving, and it's just so brilliant, man. I don't know why. It's just a morality tale. The first one's great because it's got the Gillian Welch song in it. There's the one on the train that's supposed to be like a metaphor for purgatory or something. That's what I'm saying. When you watch a Coen Brothers movie, I have to end it here because I'm talking too long. If I know I'm going to watch a Coen Brothers movie, like I know I'm preparing myself that I'm going to have to do research after because it's going to be too complicated for me to understand. Just the way they handle the storytelling. And yeah, I know I can't be on that level. I'm never going to get to that level. I don't want to say never when I do anything, but I'm never going to sing like Otis Redding. I'm never going to be able to make a movie as intelligent as the Coen Brothers would. Maybe that's why I like Raising Arizona. Not to say it's not an intelligent movie, but it's not as crazy in depth of a morality tale. Maybe it's more of a fun ride than maybe Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, or No Country for Old Men. Better example of that one. It's a great movie, but it's so serious and so gripping where you get so tense during it. And I think I put Fargo in there too. Raising Arizona and Fargo, even though there's a hint of morality tale-ish and it's a serious subject, Fargo has tons of violence, like very gory shit, but it's done in such a way that's just fun and brilliant and funny. It really is. I'm going to end it here because I'm like at an hour or 20 minutes. So yeah, it's good I mentioned the Coen brothers at the end of this talk because more than Tarantino, I think their type of style maybe took over in Seeds of Anarchy because there is a comedic aspect to it, even though it's mafia related and there's a lot of drug stuff. These are complicated issues that deserve more of a conversation than drugs are bad or whatever else you want to put there. I don't know. I think that's gotten away through the years. I feel like entertainment and politics becomes jaded to a dangerous level where there's no room for conversation anymore. And that's when the real trouble starts, where people feel like they have to join a party, join a team, or they're not going to survive. That's when things become dangerous and you lose your independent thought. You lose your individuality. You lose your independence. You lose your ability to be a critical thinker. Or you still have that, but you're too afraid to do it because you're afraid of public perception or how people will twist your words and take things out of context. I just spoke for like an hour and a half. You don't think people will look at what I've just spoken about, find like a 30-second soundbite, if people actually wanted to attack me for some reason, and kind of manipulate information because that's how the world is now? To a dangerous degree, I believe it gets to that point But you still can't be afraid of it. If you're going to be afraid to speak your mind, well, then move to a country that suits that type of personality. Move to North Korea. I guess that's the one glaring example where you can't have an individual type of personality. You have to fall in line or you're going to get fucking put in prison or whatever. Now, is that just propaganda? I don't fucking know. Where's Dennis Rodman? He could school me in the politics of North Korea since he seems to know more about it than anybody. But let me end this here. A good ending note, I don't know. This is a different experience than Elegant Eccentrics. It's more characters. It's more of a thrill ride. There's more exciting parts to this story. And I really did dedicate myself. It took months to write this. I would work on it when I was riding on the subway to work because it took me about 2 hours every morning to commute. And I was able to work on this on the subway. I would commute to Philadelphia every morning, maybe for about 4 or 5 months because my car got hit by a drunk driver while it was parked. And then I lost my car and I felt like, all right, I could buy a new car, but I might as well just try public transportation. That seems to be less expensive. I don't need the headaches of car mechanics and registration and insurance and all this shit. So it was just easier to take the train every day. And as I did that, I would edit the screenplay and think of new dialogue. I need to go back and edit the action lines because I feel like I could improve that as a reading experience to kind of edit those lines a little. But yeah, I really put the time in with this story to make it as captivating to as many people as possible. Whether you're against it, whether you think the war on drugs was the greatest thing ever, and you think anyone who does drugs is a demon, they have the devil inside of them. If you're one of those people, you can still enjoy this movie. I'm in no way promoting drugs. I'm just saying in a free country, you can't have prohibition. It doesn't work because it's going to turn into just a lot of hypocrisy. And I feel like that's a good conversation. You can have a conversation with the most steadfast, dare police officer or evangelical Christian who, or even Muslim people don't drink alcohol, they don't gamble, they're very strict as well. The straight edge community, which I consider myself right now to be a part of, I'm a vegan, very disciplined vegan. I don't drink alcohol for almost more than 8 years probably. I don't smoke anything. I don't do any drugs. I don't do psychedelics, even though I might be interested in doing those in the later part of my life. So I do consider myself a part of that straight edge community to so much to a degree that I want to get a tattoo on my neck just to show that I'm very into that lifestyle. I don't want it to be preachy because I don't want to come off like that. So I'm still debating it. If I get a tattoo on my neck and everyone can see it and they'll be like, hey, what's that X? If they don't know what straight edge is, they're going to ask me, what's that X for? And I'm going to say, it just means straight edge. I don't want it to come off as preachy. Like, if you're not straight edge, you're not living your best life. You're wasting your potential. That is the antithetical to everything I believe in. I believe it's Ian Mackay Fugazi who said that a similar thing that people often ask him because he kind of created the whole straight edge thing. And people would ask him like, can I drink coffee if I'm straight edge? Can I do this or that if I'm straight edge? I did the same thing a couple days ago. I want to go to a peyote retreat in Arizona and try peyote as a way to just reset my consciousness because I feel like I got so much frustration built up inside of me. I haven't masturbated in 9 months. Like I haven't released, so that might have something to do with it. I don't have a sex life and I don't jerk my dick off. So that in the past, that's a way to relieve your tension. But I haven't done that for like 9 months now. I've done this before where I refrained from it around 2021 when I was writing on my screenplays. But, that might be something that keeps a lot of my frustrations in. I don't know, man. But anyway, I want to go to a peyote retreat in Arizona, this church of peyote, Native American, whatever. Hopefully it's legitimate. And I just want to experience it in a spiritual fashion. It's not about partying or, I don't know, tripping my balls out just for the sake of tripping my balls. I want to experience some kind of a spiritual connection to nature and to a larger, almost like the mycelium network, like a larger network of consciousness that's more just about the basis, whatever that is, because I don't know. What is your base human nature? What is human nature? That's what I think gets lost as you get older and as you have all this other information invading your consciousness. I'm not trying to be preachy, man. I'm not trying to be like Ian MacKay. Why I brought him up right now is because he said that. People always email him and ask him, if I'm straight edge, can I drink caffeine? Can I do this? Can I do this? And he's like, man, just as long as you're not hurting other people. I think that was his main message. Like, he wasn't trying to judge other people. It's just how he chose to live his life. Some people drink on the weekends. I don't care. I'm not going to judge those people. I used to live like that. Some people drink every day. I'm not going to judge those people either. I don't think they're better or worse than me. Everyone survives how they want to survive through this experience of life. Like, I'm not trying to preach to people. I think you can get a good sense of where I'm coming from when I speak for an hour and a half like this. And it's enjoyable to talk freely like this about the art I want to create because it's all connected. It's all connected. I'm having these talks right now, this talk right now based on the screenplay I wrote 5 years ago, but it's still relevant. I could go back now and watch The Ballad of Billie Jean. Is that what it's called? There's an 80s movie called The Ballad. I could be is that what it's called? Where all the girls start cutting their hair off. Not The Ballad, The Legend of Billie Jean. I think I had a big crush on this woman when I was little. The Legend of Billie Jean, 1985. Yeah, I don't know. Is that Helen Slater? Is that the main character? Yeah. Texas teenager who becomes an unlikely folk hero after she and her brother, Christian Slater, go on the run. Yeah, it's a good movie. I watched it a couple of years ago. It still kind of holds up pretty well. And it's pretty good. So I can go back and watch that movie and it would still connect with me even though I watched that as a child and as probably as a 20-year-old, and I watched it a couple of years ago when I was in my 40s. It still has the same relevance. It's just the message doesn't change. Just my interpretation of the message changes. When I'm a kid, I don't notice things, but when I'm in my 40s, of course, you have more life experience. You have more of a palette of what the message might be and what they're trying to portray through the characters and story. So that's all I'm trying to do. When I speak for an hour like this or an hour and a half, it is a therapy session, but it's also because I want to make this into a movie, and I'm hoping that other people will have a similar passion like this. This could really work on a lot of levels, not just from all these spiritual undertones that I'm talking about to death. It's just cool to have that punk aesthetic, the 80s punk look with mohawks and ripped clothing and all that stuff. And it's going to be in a setting of the Bible Belt on a homestead, a bunch of punk rock kids farming. Like, you can make a movie just based on that concept. And I think it works on a lot of different levels, man. And I'm going to cut it here. This is probably the longest I ever spoke for. Yeah, hopefully, I would really love to get feedback from people, like I always say, because it's hard for me to judge my own stuff. I'm going to be biased. I try to keep an even keel attitude when I write a song or write a story like this, and not be like, this is the greatest thing ever fucking created, because I don't ever think like that. Seriously, I never do. I'm usually the opposite. I'm like, why can't I get anyone to pay attention to this shit? It either gets me really frustrated or like, what the fuck, man? I don't know how else to approach this from a marketing angle. So revisiting stories that I wrote 5 years ago in the hopes of bringing a new life to them and bringing some kind of attention to it. I don't really think it's going to happen because I don't think I'm in the right environment around the right people to be a part of an artistic community like this. That's my own fault. I need to move somewhere where there is an artist type of community where art is not only appreciated, but people want to work together and encourage networking and collaboration. And yeah, because all I can do is write stuff as a lone wolf type of artist, as an introvert, as I live in isolation pretty much. I am trying to approach these things in different ways. I really am, to an honest degree. I'm not just doing this to do it. I want it to become a reality where somebody else would want to be directing this and going through the casting process. To be honest, I don't think I want to even be involved with that stuff. If they were going to cast this movie, all right, a production company buys the screenplay, they find a director, I'd be more than happy to speak to the director and see where his or her vision is, and hopefully it's a kumbaya type of thing and we have a similar vision and we like similar styles, like the Coen brothers, stuff like that. Hopefully they're a fan of stuff like that. But when it comes to casting and all the other nitty gritty of what it takes to produce a movie, I don't even think I want to be involved with that. I might like it, but to be honest, I don't think I would. I'd rather just write the stories and keep writing stuff, because that's how my brain has been trained as an artist. I've never worked with other people. It doesn't mean I can't evolve and become a better collaborator and work with other people to that much of a degree. And the other side of it, I don't have the experience. Like, why would they want me to cast something? I don't know how that works, the politics of it, all the other bullshit that I don't understand really. Because it is a very tough business. I understand the entertainment business is very tough. I guess I'll end it there. Hopefully, yeah, I just want to find people. That's why I'm trying to move. I'm trying to move to the West Coast. I am pursuing it. It's just, it's a fear of moving somewhere and ending up homeless. I don't want that life. I'm too old for that shit, man. I might be able to survive as a homeless artist in my 20s, but now I'm 44 and yeah, I don't really want to live like that. Live in a tent on the side of some road. That's not really appealing to me. And I won't be able to do more art like that. How am I going to work on stuff if I don't have the ability, if I don't have access to the internet and computers and other shit to watch stuff and keep up to date with what's going on, like, yeah, my everything would be gone at that point. So I'm trying to do this in a practical way. A lot of people have done this before me. I'm not special. I'm just trying to do it in a later stage of my life, I guess. But to be honest, yeah, I've said to be honest like 100 times now. To be frank, I've been doing this for 6 years. This whole process started with Seeds of Anarchy. So this is the fitting way to close this little sermon that I'm doing right now. Everything started in 2020 with Seeds of Anarchy. So maybe that's why this morning I woke up and some voice in my head told me to do this today. Because this was the genesis of this journey. The first thing I set out to do in 2020, besides other stuff, writing songs and other artistic pursuits, was this screenplay. And I'm still happy with it. It's 6 years later and I'm still happy with it. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but I think it's at the point where I was right to share it with people. It has enough depth and uniqueness to give myself a unique voice, at least. And I'm going to end it here for real this time. I will continue doing this. I don't know which screenplay I'll do tomorrow or the next day. I'll probably do my other feature, which is called Everything is Free. I might have to get a little more creative with that one. It's a horror movie, and it's also kind of a musical throughout the story of this folk singer in Greenwich Village in the 60s. I wrote maybe 5 or 6 original songs for the movie. Folk songs and other types of songs. So I might have to revisit that as I go through the story, and maybe I'll do it tomorrow, maybe I'll do it in a couple days, I'm not sure yet. But that's all. Hopefully you enjoyed a nearly 2-hour talk inside my brain.